The numbers jumped out at me from the bank statement like accusatory fingers. $20,000 transferred to an account I didn't recognize. Then another 15,000 2 weeks later. My hands trembled as I scrolled through my parents' online banking history, each new discovery hitting harder than the last. I'm Hope, and I just found out my golden boy brother is bleeding our parents dry. Everything okay, sweetie? My mother's voice floated up from downstairs. The coffee's getting cold. Coming, I called back, my voice steadier than I felt. I minimized the browser window, muscle memory from years of hiding things from my family. Not my secrets this time, Lucas's. The Sunday morning ritual at my parents' house hadn't changed in 20 years. Coffee, pastries, and endless conversations about Lucas's latest ventures. His football glory days. His business ideas. His perfect life with his perfect wife and perfect kid. I descended the stairs, each step heavy with the weight of what I'd discovered. Mom stood at the kitchen counter, arranging Danish pastries on her grandmother's china plate. Dad sat at the table, hidden behind his newspaper. Lucas called earlier, Mom said, beaming. He's finalizing that big deal he was telling us about. Isn't it exciting? The coffee turned bitter in my mouth. What kind of deal? Oh, you know your brother. She waved her hand dismissively. Always thinking big. He just needed to move some money around temporarily. Your father and I are happy to help. Dad lowered his paper slightly. Karen, maybe we shouldn't. Tom, he's our son. Of course we help. Her tone carried that familiar edge, the one that shut down any questioning of Lucas's choices. I gripped my coffee mug tighter. How much did he need? Just a small loan. Mom's smile flickered. Nothing for you to worry about. $50,000 isn't small, Mom. The silence that followed was deafening. Dad's newspaper crinkled as it lowered completely. How do you know that amount? Mom's voice had gone sharp. Because I saw the transfers. I saw them because I was helping Dad set up automatic bill payments, remember? The ones Lucas was supposed to handle months ago. You had no right to look at our private banking information. Mom's face flushed red. Someone had to. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. He's taking advantage of you both, and you're letting him. Your brother is building something important, Mom snapped. Sometimes businesses need capital. His last 3 businesses failed, Mom. The gym, the protein shake company, the sports app. Where did all that investment money go? Dad cleared his throat. Hope, maybe this isn't the time. When is the time, Dad? When they're broke. When Lucas has drained their retirement fund. That's enough. Mom slammed her hand on the counter. I won't sit here and listen to you attack your brother out of jealousy. The word hit like a slap. Jealousy. Their eternal explanation for any criticism I ever had of Lucas. Fine. I pulled out my phone and pulled up the banking app. Let me show you exactly what your precious son has been doing with your money. Mom turned away. I don't need to see anything. I trust Lucas. That's the problem. I looked at Dad, pleading. You have to see this. Please. He met my eyes for a moment, then looked away. Your mother's right, Hope. Lucas wouldn't. Unbelievable. I grabbed my purse. You know what? Keep burying your heads in the sand. But don't come crying to me when you're working at Walmart in your 70s because your retirement fund mysteriously disappeared. I stormed out, slamming the door behind me. In my car, I sat gripping the steering wheel, my knuckles white. My phone buzzed, a text from Lucas. Stay out of my business, little sister. You have no idea what you're getting into. I stared at the message, a cold smile spreading across my face. Oh, brother dear, you have no idea what I'm capable of. This isn't about jealousy anymore. This is about justice. And I'm just getting started. Nina's apartment always smelled like lavender and coffee, a combination that usually calmed my nerves. Not tonight. I paced her living room, clutching my phone with Lucas's threatening text still displayed. He's really done it this time, Nina said, curled up on her couch. Have you talked to Ella? Lucas's perfect wife? She probably helped him plan it. I stopped pacing, remembering something. Although what? Last month at Tommy's birthday party, she seemed off. Kept checking her phone. Barely touched her food. When Lucas started bragging about his new business venture, she practically flinched. Nina leaned forward. "You think she knows?" Before I could answer, my phone rang. Dad's name flashed on the screen. I answered on speaker. "Hope, your mother and I discussed it, and we're having a family dinner tomorrow night. Lucas will be there. We need to clear the air." My stomach clenched. Clear the air? Or gang up on me? That's not fair. His voice carried that familiar note of defeat. "We're trying to keep this family together. By letting Lucas steal from you? It's not stealing when we agreed to help him." Mom's voice cut in. She'd been listening the whole time. "You're coming to dinner. 7 o'clock sharp." The line went dead. Nina raised an eyebrow. "Perfect," I said. "A plan forming. I'll bring proof." The next evening, I arrived at my parents' house armed with bank statements and screenshots. Lucas's car already occupied the driveway, his precious Mercedes that probably cost another chunk of our parents' savings. Inside, the tension was thick enough to choke on. Mom busied herself in the kitchen, Dad helped set the table, and Lucas sat in his usual spot, looking smug. Ella stood by the window, bouncing their son Tommy on her hip. "Hope," Lucas said, his smile not reaching his eyes. "Good to see you're still concerned about my finances. Someone has to be." I dropped my bag beside my chair. "Since you're clearly not." "Children," Mom warned from the kitchen. "Not in front of Tommy." Ella suddenly spoke up. "I should put him to bed upstairs. It's past his bedtime anyway." As she passed me, her eyes met mine for a split second. Something in her expression made me pause. "Fear?" "So," Lucas said once Ella was gone. "Let's hear it. What horrible accusations are you bringing to dinner?" I pulled out the bank statements. "These transfers, for starters. $50,000 in 2 weeks? That's just the beginning, isn't it?" I told Mom and Dad about those transfers. He leaned back, relaxed. "They're investments in my new tech startup. Everything's properly documented." "Really?" I slid another paper across the table. "Because I called the bank. That account number you transferred to? It's a personal account in the Cayman Islands." The color drained from Lucas's face. Mom set down a casserole dish with enough force to rattle the plates. "Hope, that's enough. How dare you investigate your brother like some kind of criminal? Because he is one." I stood up, hands shaking. "He's not investing anything. He's stealing their retirement money and hiding it offshore. And I bet Ella has no idea." "Leave my wife out of this," Lucas snarled, standing too. "Why?" "Afraid she'll find out where the money's really going." A crash from upstairs made us all freeze. Ella appeared at the top of the stairs, white-faced. "Tommy's fine, he just knocked over a lamp, but..." She held up her phone. "Lucas, why is there an email about plane tickets to Buenos Aires?" The silence that followed was deafening. Lucas's face transformed from anger to something I'd never seen before, pure panic. "Ella, honey, I can explain." "Explain what?" I cut in. "How you're planning to disappear with our parents' money." Dad finally spoke, his voice barely a whisper. "Lucas, tell me this isn't true." But Lucas was already backing toward the door, his mask completely shattered. "You don't understand. None of you understand what it's like trying to live up to everyone's expectations. I just needed a fresh start." "With stolen money?" Ella's voice cracked. "Were you going to tell me about Argentina, or just disappear with our son?" Mom sank into a chair, her world visibly crumbling. And in that moment, watching my perfect brother's life implode, I felt no satisfaction, only a hollow ache for what our family had become. Lucas bolted for the door. But this time, running away wouldn't save him. I had more evidence, and now I had something even more valuable: Ella's attention. The real war was just beginning. Grandpa Henry's bookstore always smelled like old paper and pipe tobacco, even though he'd quit smoking years ago. I found him in his usual spot, perched on a wooden stool behind the counter, examining an ancient ledger through his reading glasses. "I need your help," I said, dropping a thick manila folder on the counter. He looked up, eyes sharp despite his age. "This about Lucas? You knew." "I've watched that boy take advantage of this family for years." He closed his ledger. "Your grandmother would have seen right through him. She always said Lucas had your Uncle Richard's eyes, beautiful but dangerous. I spread out the documents I'd gathered. Bank statements, failed business records, loan applications. A pattern emerged, each venture more desperate than the last. Look at this. I pointed to a document. He took out a second mortgage on his house without telling Ella. And here, he's been lying about his company's revenue to get more loans. Grandpa Henry studied the papers, his expression darkening. There's more, isn't there? I hired a private investigator. I pulled out another document. Lucas has gambling debts. Big ones. The kind that attract dangerous people. The bell above the door chimed. Ella walked in, Tommy balanced on her hip. Her eyes were red-rimmed. I thought I'd find you here, she said. Lucas came home last night. He's saying you fabricated everything. Did he explain the plane tickets? She shifted Tommy to her other hip. He says it was a business trip he was planning. That you're twisting everything because you're jealous. Jealous. I laughed, the sound harsh even to my ears. Show her, Grandpa. He handed Ella the mortgage document. Her hands trembled as she read it. This can't be right, she whispered. We agreed no major financial decisions without consulting each other. There's more. I hesitated, then pulled out the gambling records. He owes people money, Ella. Dangerous people. The color drained from her face. How much? Over 200,000. Tommy started fussing. Grandpa Henry quickly produced a cookie from behind the counter. He'd always kept treats for young visitors. I should have seen it, Ella said, watching Tommy nibble the cookie. The late-night phone calls. The way he'd jump whenever his phone buzzed. Last week, I found him in our home office at 3 a.m, shredding documents. The bell chimed again. My mother burst in, face flushed with anger. Hope, what have you done? She demanded. Lucas is talking about leaving town because of your accusations. He says you're trying to destroy him. Karen, Grandpa Henry's voice carried a warning. Before you defend your son, you might want to see these. I don't need to see anything. You've always taken Hope's side. Mom. Ella's voice cut through the tension. Look at the documents. Please. For Tommy's sake. Something in Ella's tone made Mom pause. She took the papers with obvious reluctance. As she read, her hands began to shake. This must be a mistake. Lucas wouldn't. He already has, I said quietly. And if we don't stop him, he's going to drag this whole family down with him. The sound of screeching tires outside made us all jump. Through the store's front window, I saw Lucas's Mercedes pull up sharply. He followed me, Ella whispered, clutching Tommy closer. Lucas burst through the door, his usual polished appearance disheveled. His eyes landed on the documents spread across the counter. You just couldn't leave it alone, could you? He snarled at me. Had to play detective, had to ruin everything. You ruined it yourself. Grandpa Henry stood, his voice stern. Now step back from my granddaughter. Lucas's phone buzzed. He checked it, and for a moment, raw fear flashed across his face. You don't understand, he said, his voice cracking. These people, they want their money by midnight. All of it. If I don't pay, then what? I challenged. More theft? More lies? Or were you planning to run and leave Ella and Tommy to deal with your mess? The look in his eyes told me everything. My perfect brother, the golden child, was finally out of options. And for the first time in our lives, I held all the cards. The lawyer's office felt too small for the weight of what I was about to do. Papers scattered across his desk, affidavits, bank records, and a restraining order application that made my stomach turn. Once we file these, Mr. Patterson said, tapping the documents, there's no going back. Your brother could face serious charges. My phone buzzed again, the 15th call from Mom in 2 hours. I silenced it without looking. What about my parents' money? We can freeze the accounts immediately, but he hesitated. There's something else you should see. He slid a document across the desk. A deed transfer, dated 3 days ago. My parents' house, their home of 30 years, now belonged to one of Lucas's shell companies. The room tilted sideways. They don't know, do they? Based on these signatures. He adjusted his glasses. I'm almost certain they're forged. A knock at the door made us both jump. Dad stood there, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Hope. His voice cracked. We need to talk. Mr. Patterson gathered the papers. I'll give you two a moment. Once we were alone, Dad collapsed into the vacant chair. Your mother doesn't know I'm here. Did Lucas tell you about the house? His blank expression answered my question. Why are you here, Dad? He pulled out an old envelope, yellowed with age. I found this in your grandmother's things after she died. She made me promise to keep it safe. His hands shook as he opened it. It's about Lucas. Inside was a DNA test from 28 years ago. My heart stopped as I read the results. Lucas isn't yours? Your mother had an affair with Richard, my brother. The star athlete, the golden boy. He laughed bitterly. I've spent 28 years trying to love a son who reminded me every day of my brother's betrayal. Does Lucas know? No, but I think he sensed it somehow. The way I could never quite. He trailed off, staring at his hands. Why tell me now? Because I'm done protecting other people's lies. He straightened up. I want to sign whatever papers you need. It's time someone in this family stood up for what's right. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from Ella. Lucas is gone. Took everything from our accounts. Police are here. Before I could respond, another text came through, this one from Lucas himself. You want to play hardball, little sister? Fine. Tell Mom and Dad to check their retirement accounts. All of them. My hands trembled as I pulled up the banking app. Every account, empty. He's cleaned them out, I whispered. Everything. Dad's face hardened. Call your lawyer back in. Wait. I stared at Lucas's text. Something felt off. He's trying to scare us into backing down. But why now? I dialed Nina. Remember that background check you ran on Lucas's new business partner? The one who doesn't exist? Yeah, why? I need you to check something else. Look for any recent property purchases under his name. I heard keyboard clicks, then a sharp intake of breath. Hope, he bought a plane ticket. Private charter. Tonight. Where to? Venezuela. No extradition treaty. Dad was already on his feet. I'm calling the police. No. I grabbed his arm. If we spook him now, he'll run immediately. We need to play this smart. I turned back to the lawyer's documents. How quickly can we freeze everything? With your father's signature? Within the hour. I met Dad's eyes. Are you sure about this? Mom will never forgive you. Your mother's forgiveness stopped mattering the moment she chose Lucas's lies over our family's future. He picked up the pen. Do it. As he signed the papers, I felt the weight of 24 years of being the overlooked child, the second best, the afterthought. But now, watching my father finally choose truth over comfort, I realized this wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about justice. And sometimes justice means burning everything down to save what matters most. I pulled out my phone and dialed one last number. Ella? Get Tommy and pack a bag. I know where Lucas is going, and I need your help to stop him. The private airfield sprawled before us, dark except for the runway lights cutting through the fog. Ella clutched Tommy to her chest in the passenger seat while Nina worked her laptop in the back. His flight's scheduled for midnight, Nina said. We have 40 minutes. My phone lit up with Mom's face. After 3 days of silence, she was calling now. I answered on speaker. Where are you? Her voice cracked. Lucas just called. He's saying terrible things about your father, about some DNA test. Is it true? I kept my eyes on the airfield's entrance. About Uncle Richard? The silence stretched too long. We need to talk about this as a family. Like we talked about Lucas stealing your retirement? Or forging your signatures? Or, he's your brother. No. The word felt like glass in my throat. Apparently he's not. A security guard approached our car. I flashed Ella's ID. She'd called ahead, playing the dutiful wife one last time. You don't understand, Mom continued. Lucas is in trouble. Real trouble. There are men looking for him. Dangerous people. I know about the gambling debts. No, it's worse. Her voice dropped. They're saying he laundered money for them. If he doesn't deliver tonight. Headlights swept across the parking lot. A black SUV pulled up near the private hangar. I have to go. I hung up as two men in dark suits emerged from the SUV. They didn't move like businessmen. Those aren't debt collectors, Nina whispered. Hope, what are we doing here? My phone buzzed with a text from Lucas. If you're here to stop me, don't. These people will kill me if I don't deliver. Take Tommy, Ella said suddenly, passing her son to Nina. I'm going to talk to him. Ella, wait. But she was already out of the car, walking toward the hangar. I followed, my heart hammering. Lucas stepped out of the shadows, looking haunted. The men in suits tensed. It's just my wife, Lucas called to them. And my sister. 10 minutes, one man growled. Then we leave with or without the money. Ella reached Lucas first. You were going to leave us? I was going to send for you. His eyes darted between us. Once I figured things out. You mean once you laundered their money? I stepped closer. That's what this is about, isn't it? Your new business partner, he's with them. I didn't have a choice. They threatened Tommy. Don't you dare, Ella hissed. Don't use our son to justify this. A car door slammed behind us. Dad emerged from the darkness, followed by Grandpa Henry. Hope texted me your location, Grandpa said, his voice steel. Did you really think we'd let you run? Lucas backed away. You don't understand. If I don't get on that plane, then what? Dad stepped forward. More lies? More theft? When does it end, Lucas? When I'm dead? Lucas laughed, a hollow sound. Is that what you want? Dad? Or should I even call you that? The suited men moved closer. Time's up. Wait. I pulled out my phone, opened a banking app. I can transfer the money. Right now. Everyone froze. Hope, don't, Dad warned. It's my trust fund. I met Lucas's eyes. The one Grandma left me. The one you couldn't touch. Why would you? Lucas started. Because I'm giving you a choice. My finger hovered over the transfer button. Take the money, get on that plane. But if you do, you never contact this family again. You never threaten Ella or Tommy. You disappear completely. Or stay. Face what you've done. Let us help you the right way, with lawyers, with protection. But no more lies. The suited men shifted impatiently. Lucas looked at Ella, at Tommy in the car, then at the plane waiting in the darkness. Time to choose, brother. I held up my phone. Who are you really running from? The fog thickened around us as Lucas stared at the screen, his face reflecting the harsh glow of numbers that could buy his freedom or seal his fate. The police station's fluorescent lights made everything look sickly and unreal. I sat in the hard plastic chair, watching through one-way glass as Lucas talked to the detectives. Mom paced behind me, while Dad and Grandpa Henry sat silently in the corner. He's going to prison, Mom whispered. My baby is going to prison, and it's your fault. I didn't respond. My trust fund was gone, transferred to an account that would help Lucas make restitution. The money that was supposed to be my fresh start, my escape, now belonged to his victims. Detective Martinez stepped out of the interrogation room. Your brother's naming names. Big ones. The kind that make people disappear. So what happens now? Dad asked. Witness protection, probably. For all of you. Mom collapsed into a chair. All of us. These people he worked with, they don't leave loose ends. Martinez's face hardened. They've already made threats against Tommy. Ella burst through the door, face streaked with tears. They took him. They took my baby. The room exploded into chaos. Martinez barked orders into his radio while Mom screamed and Dad tried to calm Ella down. When? I grabbed Ella's shoulders. Where? The babysitter. She said 2 men came with papers, said they were from Child Services. Ella's voice cracked. I called the agency. They never sent anyone. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Your brother's testimony for the kid. 1 hour. Come alone. I showed Martinez the text. He shook his head. We can't let you. It's my nephew. I stood up. And my mess to fix. Hope, Grandpa Henry caught my arm. This isn't your fault. But it was. I'd pushed Lucas into a corner, forced his hand. In my quest for justice, I'd put a child in danger. I have a plan. I looked at Martinez. But I need your help. 40 minutes later, I stood in the empty parking garage from the text, my heart thundering against my ribs. A black car pulled up, its windows tinted. A man stepped out, the same suit from the airfield. Where's Lucas? Where's Tommy? He nodded to the car. The back window lowered slightly, enough to see Tommy's sleeping face. Sedated, the man said. He'll wake up fine if you deliver. I need proof he's really okay. You're not calling the shots here. No. I pulled out my phone. Then I'll tell the FBI task force that's watching us right now to move in. Your choice. The man's face tightened. He opened the car door, revealing Tommy strapped into a car seat. I stepped forward, checking his breathing. Steady. Relief flooded through me. Happy? Now, where's Lucas? I straightened up. He's not coming. The man's gun appeared so fast I barely saw him move. That wasn't the deal. No, but this is. I held up my phone, showing him the live stream that had been running since I arrived. Say hi to your followers. All 100,000 of them. His eyes widened as he saw the viewer count climbing. Amazing what a viral post about kidnapping can do. #SaveTommy is trending. I took another step forward. The whole city is watching. Police are probably already on their way. So here's my counteroffer. Leave Tommy, walk away, and this video doesn't include your face. You stupid bit. Police sirens wailed in the distance. The man's head snapped toward the sound. Tick-tock, I said. He backed toward his car. This isn't over. Yes, it is. Because if anything happens to my family, any of them, this video shows exactly who to blame. He peeled out of the garage just as police cars swarmed the entrance. I grabbed Tommy from the car seat, holding him close as Martinez's team surrounded us. Targets fleeing north, Martinez barked into his radio. You okay? I nodded, watching Mom and Ella run toward us. But over their shoulders, I caught Lucas's eyes through the window of a police car. His face showed something I'd never seen before, respect. But it didn't matter anymore. I'd won, but the victory felt hollow. My family was fractured, possibly beyond repair. And somewhere in the city, dangerous men were plotting revenge. The war wasn't over. It was just changing battlefields. The safe house felt like a cage. 3 weeks of protective custody had worn us all down. Mom barely spoke, Dad buried himself in paperwork, and Ella spent hours staring out windows, Tommy clutched to her chest. Martinez arrived at sunset, his face grim. We found them. The whole operation. But what? He handed me a phone. Lucas wants to talk to you. Only you. I stepped onto the back porch, away from the family's prying eyes. What do you want? They're going to kill me. Lucas's voice shook. The FBI raid missed some people. Important people. They think I'm the leak. Aren't you? Not the original one. He paused. Hope, I need to show you something. Something that changes everything. No meetings, Martinez said. It's about Dad. And Uncle Richard. And why Mom always protected me. His voice dropped. There's so much you don't know. The line went dead. A text followed with an address, the old high school football field where Lucas had been king. Martinez caught me at the door. You're not going. I showed him the text. You can watch from a distance. But he'll only talk to me. It's a trap. Probably. I grabbed my keys. But I need to know the truth. The football field was dark except for one set of lights illuminating the 50-yard line. Lucas stood there, looking small against the empty bleachers. I'm here, I called out. Talk. He turned, holding a manila envelope. Did you ever wonder why Mom couldn't let me fail? Why she pushed so hard? Because you were her golden boy. Because I was her shame. He pulled out old letters. Richard wasn't just Dad's brother. He was Mom's first love. The star athlete she was supposed to marry. Until his accident. Until she got pregnant with me. The accident happened after, when Richard found out she'd chosen Dad instead. My head spun. Why are you telling me this now? Because Mom's not just protecting me. She's protecting herself. Her guilt, her choices. He laughed bitterly. I was never supposed to be the good son. I was her penance. Movement in the shadows caught my eye. Men in dark clothes, moving closer. You brought them here. They followed me. His hands trembled. I'm sorry, Hope. They said they'd kill Ella and Tommy if I didn't. Bring the other leak? A new voice cut through the darkness. The man from the parking garage stepped into the light. We've been watching you, Hope. Your little livestream stunt cost us millions. More men emerged, forming a circle around us. Martinez and his team were nowhere in sight. You know what's funny? The man continued. Lucas here wasn't the leak. Your mother was. Lucas's head snapped up. What? Karen's been feeding information to the FBI for months, trying to save her precious son. He raised his gun. Too bad she was too late. You're lying, Lucas whispered. Ask her yourself. Oh, wait. The man smiled. You won't get the chance. Time slowed. I saw his finger tighten on the trigger. Saw Lucas step forward, maybe to run, maybe to fight. Then the night exploded with light and sound. FBI, don't move. Spotlights flooded the field. Agents rappelled from the bleachers. Martinez's voice boomed through a megaphone. I dove for Lucas as gunfire erupted. We hit the turf hard. Mom really was trying to save you, I gasped. All this time. Lucas gripped my arm, eyes wide. Hope I... More shots. A bullet kicked up grass near our heads. Shut up and crawl, I hissed, pulling him toward the sideline. As we reached safety behind a SWAT van, Lucas looked at me differently, not with his usual condescension or recent fear, but with something like awe. You knew they'd follow me, he said. You used me as bait. I learned from the best. I checked him for wounds. Ready to tell the whole truth now? He nodded slowly, watching as agents led the captured men away. Think Mom will ever forgive us? Maybe. I helped him up. But first, we have to forgive her. Grandpa Henry's bookstore smelled different now, fresh paint mixed with the familiar scent of old paper. I straightened the grand reopening banner while he arranged books in the newly restored shelves. Your grandmother would have loved this, he said, adjusting his glasses. Using your settlement money to save her store. Our store, I corrected. Besides, blood money should go to something good. The criminal case had ended with plea deals and asset seizures. The crime syndicate crumbled, its leaders scattered or imprisoned. Our family's share of the recovered funds came with strings attached to therapy, supervision, accountability. The bell chimed. Lucas stepped in, looking smaller in his court-mandated monitoring anklet. Need help with those boxes? I nodded toward the back room. As he passed, I caught Mom watching through the window, hesitating at the door. Dad stood behind her, his hand on her shoulder. They'll come in when they're ready, Grandpa Henry said softly. Lucas returned with a stack of books. Where do you want these? Fiction section. Under R for redemption. He almost smiled. Subtle. Learned from the best. I handed him another box. How's the counseling going? Better than prison. He shelved books carefully, methodically. Ella's thinking about letting me have supervised visits with Tommy. Good. Hope. He paused, a book half-shelved. I've been trying to figure out when it all went wrong. Not the money or the lies, but us. When did I stop being your brother and start being your enemy? Maybe when I stopped being your sister and became your competition. The bell chimed again. Mom finally stepped inside, Dad close behind. She looked around the restored store, tears in her eyes. Your grandmother's first edition collection, she whispered, touching the glass display case. You found them? In the attic, Grandpa Henry said. Where you hid them when the creditors came for Richard's debts. Mom's hand trembled. I was trying to protect everyone. By lying, Dad's voice was gentle but firm. Or by making Lucas into something he wasn't? Both. She turned to Lucas. I thought if I could make you perfect, it would erase my mistakes. Instead, I just repeated them. Lucas stepped toward her, then stopped, uncertain. I moved between them, taking Mom's hand and placing it in Lucas's. Perfect is overrated, I said. Try honest instead. The door chimed one last time. Nina walked in with Tommy, returning from their ice cream run. The toddler squealed at the sight of Lucas, but stayed by Nina's side, still cautious around his father. Hey, champ, Lucas said softly. Want to help me put some books away? Tommy looked at Nina, who nodded. He took a tentative step toward Lucas. I turned away, giving them space, and found Dad studying the old family photos on the wall, Mom and Uncle Richard as teenagers, Grandma and Grandpa on their wedding day, Lucas and me as kids. "I should have protected you both," he said. "From Karen's guilt, from Richard's shadow, from my own cowardice. We protect ourselves now." I straightened a crooked frame. "And maybe each other when we can." Speaking of protection, Grandpa Henry called from the counter, "These books won't shelve themselves." Family project? One by one, they moved toward the boxes, Mom and Dad, Lucas with Tommy trailing behind, Nina grabbing the lighter loads. We worked in comfortable silence, finding our rhythms, respecting our spaces. I watched them from the ladder as I stalked the top shelves. My family, broken and healing, learning to exist in the truth rather than perfect lies. The revenge I'd sought had transformed into something else, not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. The last book in my hand was Grandma's favorite, Worn and Dog-Eared. Inside the cover, her handwriting, "The truth may hurt, but lies leave scars." I placed it carefully on the shelf, between the past we couldn't change and the future we'd have to build. Some stories end with perfect resolution, with all wounds healed and all sins forgiven. This wasn't one of them. But maybe that made it more true. 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 Maybe that made it